Super good morning to you. It's actually midnight in the east, 12:11 on the east coast, and it is, I know, still Thursday in some parts of the country. And I just got back in from Nashville, Tennessee, and we were at the Pastor Summit of the Turning Point USA. Now, it's not every day that you go to an event. It was a last-minute thing. I found out. I'm going to show you a special guest that was there tonight. I didn't realize it. I had reached out to him, and he's going to be a special guest on Memorial Day night, looks like, with us. I'll show you his picture in a minute, but he said, I don't know if I can get you in, but come on over and we'll try. Well, when he met me at the top of the escalator, he said, come on this way, and got a hold of one of the guys, and he said, this is Chris McDonald, and I've been on his show a lot, and he said, can you get him a badge? And I figured they'd get me just a standard, attendee guest badge. And I was a speaker, a ghost speaker. I didn't even get to speak, but I could have. I could have went on stage and just started rambling like I do to y'all every night. But they did get my name spelled right for a change. MC, not M-A-C. The Mac without the A, the macaroni and cheese. But blessed time today, and I'm going to go ahead and reveal to you who we got to see in person for the first time. And it was such a blessing. I mean, a blessing to actually, we not only, I'm going to post a picture off my phone. I should have sent it. We got to ride in the car together. I took him to the airport after his speech. He was having to leave tonight to go back to Florida. But the one and only Bill Federer. And if you have ever seen our show, you know Bill. And he's such a good guy. I'm going to put that picture over there. There he is right there. That was us tonight earlier in Nashville. And I got to listen to him speak. And got a few action shots of him going here. I think that one is going to, yeah, that one's right. He was animated tonight. He was good. He's going to come on Monday night and share some of the thoughts that he did today. And I tell you what, he was on fire, and they gave him a standing ovation, as they should have. And I'll explain a little bit what he's talked about tonight, because that's what we're going to be dealing with tonight on our show. And I think that was that one. And this is how we were leaving This was him after the event, and another good picture of us there. Bless that man right there. He has been such a blessing to our show. He's actually a historian, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what he was talking about tonight in just a minute. But it was a great evening in Nashville, and short notice, last minute. Just got in the car this afternoon. I had texted him actually to come on the show Monday for Memorial Day. He had a presentation on his website about Memorial Day, and he said, "Yeah, I'd be glad to." And I said, "That's great. How you doing?" He said, "Well, I'm over in Nashville." And I was like, "Whoa!" I was like, "Man, you just 2.5 hours from me." And then he gave me the event, and it was like this morning. And I said, "I'll tell you what, let me get done with this Bible study. I'll come over there and see you tonight." And he was very happy that I came, and I never had met him in person until tonight, and it was such a blessing to meet him in person. I got to show you one other picture. She walked in the door. We were in the speakers lounge. That's what they do. You know, it's like giving you a fake ID, you know, to get into a bar. Not that I'd ever go to a bar with a fake ID, but this was sort of like a fake ID tonight, because I got to go in anywhere in the event center, but I got to go in the speakers room. And while I'm standing there, I hear this blonde come in, and I mean, this voice, I instantly, when I heard the voice, I said, I have heard that voice somewhere before. I don't know where I've heard it. Wherever I heard that voice, she looks familiar. And I looked down at her name tag, and you probably remember her. Some of you may not. If you're old as I am, you will remember that. That is the one and only Victoria Jackson. That is the one and only Victoria Jackson from the Saturday Night Live fame of the 1970s. And she is a born-again Christian, saved by the blood of Jesus. We got to talk a little bit, and her husband were there tonight, and it was unbelievable. And she was very gracious, still a little wacky, but nothing wrong with being a little wacky. And we got old Ron Edwards in the house. Please, nobody whack Ron out of the chat room tonight. Moderators, behave yourself out there. But anyway, Ron, good to see you tonight, buddy. Glad you're up this hour. But no, we had a long talk, and the Lord willing, Miss Victoria said she would love to come on the McFiles. And I said, we will make that happen. And I'm going to try to get a hold of her this week and or next, and we will see if she can do that. That would be so cool to get two great God. If you had heard her talk, she was just like she was in the 70s. I'm telling you, she hadn't changed a lot. And I remember watching her. It was like actually the 80s and 90s. She wasn't in the 70s. She wasn't around. She was the cast probably from about 85, maybe 86. She left the show in 92. But she was just as sweet. I tell you, she was really, and she told me about her faith tonight. She is a patriot of the country, loves God, loves the Lord. And the Lord has really done a great work in her life. But it was an honor. It was an honor to run into her. You see what you get when you get a fake ID like this? I could have met anybody. We also met David Barton. Some of you don't know who that is. David is part of Wall Builders, and if you ever watch the Glenn Beck show, David is a frequent guest, and David too has expressed interest that he would like to come on the show. We met a lot of new people tonight just in the short time I was there, and all of them expressed interest on coming on my show, and I was very flattered and very honored to talk to them. And I'll save the list for later, but I will tell you what, you don't want to miss an episode this summer of the McFiles. We got some jam up people coming. Good grief. And may even get old Ron Edwards back. Wasn't he good the other night? Ron was in the house. He's in the house tonight, and he was great. And yeah, anyway. Brian says, I just happened to look on YouTube and I saw that Chris is still on. No, Chris just got on, Brian. We're having a late night Q&A, this and that, and a few thoughts and so forth. But anyway, it is good to see all you folks out there. And Mr. Ron Edwards, good to see you, buddy. And yes, Federer is a great historian, but he's a good man beyond all the historian stuff. And I want to talk a little bit about what he had to say tonight, and then I'm going to take your questions, and I'm going to let you just post them in the chat room, but don't post them just yet. I really want to come on and talk about two things tonight on this late night hour. What William Federer talked about tonight, but I also want to talk about Ron DeSantis and get your thoughts on how some of you feel, how you feel out there about him. Well, I'll get to that in a minute. Bill tonight, if you've ever got his book, it's actually a book, but there's also a video about the kings. Here Comes the King, or something like that. I'll have to get the exact title. It is an excellent study of government and God, and how that Europe was ruled by kings. Actually, it goes back to the Bible days when Israel clamored for a king, and basically it takes the history of the world all the way from the day of Saul all the way up to current events, and how that some nations are ruled by kings, other nations are ruled by the people. And it was a beautiful presentation tonight. I'd actually heard him allude to this. We had a few shows with him in the past, just in this last year, that he talked about that a little bit. But a part of his speech tonight had to do with the consensus or the conspiracy of silence in the church. And Ron alluded to that last Tuesday night when he was on our show, and he talked about how that God's people has basically just shut their mouth about things that matter. And Bill nailed it home today in a powerful way. And he was talking about how that the church can do both. We can have a personal relationship with Jesus, which is the most important. And he made that statement over and over. He said, and I was so proud of him, because this was a conservative crowd, but it wasn't given that every single person in that auditorium knew Jesus. There's a lot of conservatives, folks, that don't know Christ. There's a lot of people that are conservative, but they're not Christian. We tend to we make that mistake, that if somebody's conservative, we automatically assume, and we assume wrong, that they know the Lord. They don't. Many of them don't. I will say this, I don't think you can know the Lord personally and not be a conservative, because conservatives believe in the protection of life and values, and we don't believe in this perversion, and we believe in faith, and we believe in keeping our moral life clean as much as possible. And if we fail in that area, we know to go to the Lord and ask him for forgiveness, and I think that's a given. But it sometimes ain't the other way around. There's a lot of conservatives, folks, that are, they may have a conservative outlook on life, but they just don't know the Lord. But with Bill, I have to say, he gave a strong witness in his speech tonight. I was very proud of him. I told him that in the car. But he told the audience, he said, the church's mandate is to tell the world, to be a light to the world, to have a personal relationship with Jesus. And he dealt with the history of the Puritans, the Pilgrims, the Purists, that the Lutheran Church, the influence of the Lutheran Church on America. It was incredible stuff, as only Bill Federer can do. And he's going to talk a little bit about this Monday night. He's coming on, and I'm going to get him to sort of share some of these thoughts again Monday night. We're going to be dealing Monday night with Memorial Day, though, too. He's going to tell you the history of Memorial Day. It's very powerful. He had a presentation on his website today, and I just couldn't help. That's why I reached out to him. The Lord was in it. I wouldn't have known he was in Nashville if I didn't reach out to him. And but he's going to deal with that too. But he was basically saying that when you are silent about evil, you are consenting to evil. When you are silent as a country, as a nation, as a person, as a church, as an organization about evil, you are consenting to that evil. And folks, that is what has happened, sadly, with many a church in this country. We have kept our mouth shut about abortion. We've kept our mouths shut about this perversion. We've allowed them to target our kids with genital mutilation. We've allowed them to target our kids with transgenderism. I've said this often lately. You can't very well judge the world by these things if you're allowing them in your church, and there's a lot of churches that are opening their doors to this perversion. Folks, you can love the homosexual, you can love the transgender. We have to love them, we have to care for them because we love people. But it doesn't mean that when you love somebody like that, that you condone their lifestyle, and it sure doesn't mean that you embrace that and try to bring the church in alignment with such, because you're basically bringing the church in alignment with evil. And that is not the biblical pattern. No, we don't witness to the homosexual by telling the homosexual or the transgender or the fornicator or the liar or the adulterer or the thief or the dope smoker or the alcoholic. We don't witness to them and say, you can stay like you are and be saved. No, that's not love, folks. That's hate. I've said this numerous times, and I'll say it again tonight on this late night. I'm wide awake to be at 12:25. You're in trouble tonight because this is a late night lights out McFiles midnight special, and we're live tonight. People that lie to you about your soul, people that lie to you about stuff like that, people that tell you an untruth about the reality of God and the reality of sin and the reality of death by sin and the reality of the truth of the Bible, they hate your soul. They hate your soul. I don't care who they are. I don't care what teachers out there. I don't care what prophets out there. I don't care what big name celebrity is out there lying to you about faith. Folks, they hate your soul. If they are carrying you away from the truth of God's Word, if they're carrying you away from the truth, they hate your soul. And if they stay silent in the face of evil, they hate your soul, and they hate this country's soul too. And it was very encouraging tonight. I watched Bill Federer at his best, and I tell you what, he had that audience mesmerized for a half hour. They gave him a standing ovation. He deserved it. But he was talking over and over, and we're going to deal with this Monday night, but I want to say this myself about this. Hell will freeze over before this show. Stay silent about the evil that is facing this country. We're not planning on staying silent. We hadn't stayed silent for 6 years. We get accused of being a lot of things. We get accused of a lot of stuff that we don't do. We get accused of saying things we don't say because we have individuals out there with a low IQ, and they've got an IQ of a 2-year-old and the manners of a 1-year-old. But I can tell you right now, folks, I know what this show has put forth in 6 years has been nothing but truth. And if we have discerned and we have found out that we've had guests on here that are not presenting the truth, I can tell you the current state of affairs as of 12/25 on May the 26th, 2023, I can tell you right now they've been cut loose and they won't be back. This last year there has been a house cleaning like we've never seen on this show. I've been through something that I never really saw it coming. But when the Lord starts cleaning house, the best thing for you to do is just sit back, keep your mouth shut, and let the Lord take the broom and clean it out. And He's done that. It's not been easy. It's been painful at times to watch it. It's been painful to watch people leave over it. It's been painful to lose friendships over it. It's been painful to see the reaction of people, and they still, to this hour, again, rudely come in and ask questions about things they have really no business of, knowing it's none of their business what goes on behind the scenes here. If we feel led to say something to you about it, we will. I've had to take a long look at myself this last year and the direction of the show. And I will tell you this on this late night, folks, I believe our show is as healthy as far as our guests go that we've ever been in 6 years. We're going on 6 years. Do you realize we're 5.5 years old? I mean, right now we'll have completed 6 years come January, going into our 7th year in 2024. And I think that's very prophetic. Our 7th year will be 2024, the election year. And I think we're as healthy a show as we've ever been. But one thing that we've never been, and we never will be, is silent in the face of evil. We have called evil for what it is. We've called out evil. We have addressed evil. We've tried to do it in a loving manner. There's been times that Chris is Chris, and Chris just gets a little wired up about things, and Chris will always get wired up about things when they're needed to get wired up about. It's called Southern Passion. It's just called being the son of Wayne McDonald and Margie Turnage McDonald. It's called being the Bear Man, the Mac Man, the Batman, whatever you want to call me. I get all sorts of titles here lately. But something will freeze over before we ever become silent in the face of evil. Abortion is still murder. It is murder. There is absolutely no reason for a woman to kill a baby. It is sin. It is murder. Both the mother and the doctor, the mother and the daddy that allow that baby to be killed are murderers. The doctor that aborts a baby, he's a murderer. That's all he is. Nothing more, nothing less. He is a murderer. He's a baby killer. Politicians that vote for policies that promote the killing of babies in the name of choice are murderers. They are killers. They are baby killers. It's infanticide. And the blood of 73 million babies, folks, has yet to be held to the account of this nation. But make no mistake about it, even though God may not have held it to account like we think he may do it, don't think that any of those babies, not one of them, since 1973, has been lost on the mind of heaven. Because every one of those babies are with God. And their blood screams at him from the earth. And yes, Roe v. Wade was taken down last year, and thank God for it, but it didn't stop abortion. And it's not going to stop abortion because there are states still allowing, and it's still being promoted, and it's still not being addressed behind pulpits. Let me just go ahead and say it tonight on this late night McFiles midnight special. It's murder, folks. It's always been murder. And it brings me to a point that I want to make about Mr. DeSantis and Trump. Now, some of you are probably going to diverge a little bit here, and you better watch your comments in that chat room because it is midnight, and the Mac Man is not in the most fondest of mood late at night, but I'm just in a wired up mood. But as long as you're respectful, you can stay. But I'm going to tell you right now, I vehemently disagree with Donald John Trump this past week when he went out and he said that the Florida attempt by Ron DeSantis, and I'm not saying I'm voting for DeSantis, folks. I've told you on this show I support President Trump, and I believe it's his time. If he wants that nomination, he's got it. He needs to run for president. He'll have my vote. But I vehemently disagree, and it was disappointing to hear him come out and attack Ron DeSantis' view that basically the killing of babies should be illegal at 6 weeks. I think that's what that Florida law was trying to push. Ron DeSantis was trying to basically make it illegal for you to kill a baby at 6 weeks. Now, I'm going to say this to you. It's illegal to me to kill a baby 1 second after it's conceived, period. I think the 6 weeks is not harsh enough, but President Trump goes out and he said, well, that's just too harsh. Well, I want President Trump to explain to me what's not too harsh. What's not too harsh? You got an innocent baby in the womb of a mother that's fighting for its life, that cannot fight for itself. Now, I'm going to tell you something. If the mother kills that baby, if I went out tonight drunk in my car and I slam into a woman that's pregnant, do you realize that I get charged for double murder? If I go out and kill somebody that's pregnant tonight, you get charged for double murder. It's amazing to me that the law recognizes that baby when something like that happens, but yet we don't recognize it when a mother willfully and a doctor willfully yanks that baby out of that mother's womb. Folks, that is murder. It's murder. It's always been murder. So to say that a 6-week ban on abortion is too harsh, I vehemently disagree. Mr. Trump, I vehemently disagree. And I wonder what moron was sticking that nonsense in his ear. I guarantee you, folks, you trace it back, it's probably one of those spiritual advisors that's saying that. And it goes exactly to what Bill Federer was screaming at tonight, that the church of the living God is culpable in the state of the nation. The state of the nation, folks, is only a mirror of our spiritual leadership in this country that has zipped its mouth in the face of evil. It's pathetic. Number two, I don't judge a homosexual. I don't judge him. I pray for him. I pray they see Jesus. They meet Jesus. I pray they see the light. But let me make it clear in no uncertain terms, folks. Homosexuality is a sin. It is not a disease. It is not some kind of lifestyle. It is a sin. It is an abomination before God. The individual is not the abomination, but that a lifestyle is, and that sin is. And I'm going to tell you something. It draws judgment from God on nations. There ain't been an empire yet that has survived the destruction or has survived that kind of union in its midst for an extended time and survived history. And let me tell my Q buddies who believe that that's beyond America's scope, that there's no way America will go down. There's no way, because we're going to haul all the evil folks off to Gitmo, and we're going to put them in chains, and y'all just watching a movie out there, and let's see what else other nonsense they got going on lately. They're back in force. Twitter lifted the ban, baby. They back in force. They back in force. Let me tell them something, and I'm going to tell you something tonight, folks. Don't you ever believe, don't you ever be deceived that God has winked. We think he's winking at all of this. That's how I look at people, and that's how I look at the church acting. That's how the church acts. God's like winking. Oh, he's just winking at this. He's got a special plan for America. So because we're America, there is no way God can judge us for such sin. That's a fool talking. That's a spiritual fool talking. That's a spiritual fool talking. God can judge us for that sin. The church is to be a light to the homosexual, but the church cannot be a light to the homosexual if the church is embracing homosexuality. That is evil, folks. And the church is derelict in its duty, being silent, calling it out as sin and calling it out as evil. The church has kept its mouth shut, to our disgrace. Number three, transgenderism. Bill strongly defended the idea tonight, and I was very proud of him again, that God only created two genders. There's not a plus sign in the Bible. There's nowhere in the Bible that it says he created male and female plus, 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 plus. No, he created two, a man and a woman. And any doctrine, any event, any story. Let me tell you this tonight, folks. I'm going to go ahead and say this and get this out of the way tonight. It's been eating in my craw all day. If you walk into a Target store at this point, I don't care who you are a pathetic disgrace. If you walk and you pay 1 cent, $1 to a Target store in this country, you need to fall on your face and repent immediately. Because what you're doing, you're financing the most evil of evil against your children and my children. Folks, I've never seen a store go so far off the deep blend that the Satanists, folks, this new LGBT Pride Week, by the way, that starts in 4 days, I believe, 5 days. June is the Pride Month again. Get ready for it. The onslaught's coming. Let me tell you this. Let me mark it down to you. If you continue to embrace that evil, you're basically hooking yourself up to it. And it's like Bill Federer said tonight, folks. Your silence is consent. You are consenting to the evil. And when you put money behind it, you're consenting to it as well. I would not darken the door of a Target store the rest of my natural born life. I don't plan to. I will never step foot in that store ever again. Ever. I really hadn't done it anyway because they started going woke about 2 years ago. And when you went into a Target, there was no men and ladies department. They made it all one gender. It was all one sex. Transgenderism, folks. is against nature. When you're created a man, I can guarantee you tonight, you're going out as a man. If you're created a woman, I can guarantee you tonight, you're going out as a woman. I don't care how much you mutilate yourself. I don't care what you cut off, what you add, what you don't cut off. I don't care what you do, what you don't do. You're going out of this earth the way that God created you to be. Now, it is your choice whether you want to spend that in hell or in heaven. That's up to you tonight. But I will tell you this, in the regions of eternity, you are going to exist forever the way you were originally created, period. I've got a young man by the name of Michael Davis that has been on this show at least 6 times, and he's reiterated that over and over because Michael was transgender. And the Lord showed him the state of those that go off into eternity, thinking that they, on this earth, should be, if it was a man, they thought they should be a woman, and women that thought they should be men, and they found out, sadly, too late. And let me tell you this about Michael Davis. They didn't find out without warning. Michael warned them. Everybody that Michael Davis comes in contact with of that situation, Michael is faithful in warning them in love that there is an eternity that's coming, that they're going to face eternity without God if they don't turn around and repent. But guess what? That's Michael. It ain't the church, folks. Because you know what the church is doing again? The church is consenting to all of this evil with its silence. With its silence. There's no message coming from the pulpits that's saying all that's true. No, what's happening, we're condemning transgenders, but we're not even telling them that they can be saved through Christ. No, we're telling them something stupid like it's in your DNA tree. Or maybe you've got a generational curse on you that's caused you to be like, or you were born this way. Or you were born this way. No, you weren't born this way. If you were born a man, you were born and created by God to stay a man the rest of your life. And by the way, men, while I'm at it, to act like men and not act like a bunch of wussies and not act like a feminine somebody that just gives you the creeps when you're around them. No, God created you and I, men, to be men. To be men. And ladies, He created you to be women. He created you the weaker vessel for a reason. I heard a great talk right before Bill came on. They were up there, and I think it was a young lady was talking about that the Women Live movement has hijacked the Bible, basically definition of a woman, and they have. They basically said, they were basically telling the women there tonight that these women that try to usurp the authority over the husband, they are disobeying God, and they exactly are doing it. And you say, well, I got a husband that don't know how to lead. It don't matter. You better pray for that husband. He's the man of the house. You usurp that authority, you're going against the will of God. That, too, the church is silent about. But there's only 2 genders, folks. There's only 2 genders. Number 4, corruption. Corruption. We have got the most corrupt government we've ever had in this country. No empire, folks. None has survived corruption in government like we've got tonight. And it's not just the White House. I know we want to blame it all on Joe, we want to blame it on Kamala. No, it ain't. They are just a symptom, folks. It is rooted deep in D.C. and other governments of the world. And I can tell you, though, in this nation is probably more rooted in anything. Folks, we're allowing things in this nation you would get put in prison for 50 years in other nations if you were caught doing. And we allow it tonight. Our justice system has been thrown in the street. Justice has fallen in the street. There is no justice in our courts. There is no equity in our courts. There is none of that tonight, folks. I read today that one of the situations in January of 2021, J6, I can't say it because they yanked my channel, the J event, I'll just call it the J event, he got 18 years today for sedition and conspiracy against the government. Folks, murderers don't get that much in this country. If you went out and killed somebody in cold blood and rolled the dice, you got a 50-50 shot. You won't even see 10 years behind bars. This guy's going to get 18 years. 18 years for protesting an election. I don't condone any illegality. I don't condone any people that were up there busting glass out and doing stupid stuff like that. They get what they deserve, folks. And you say, well, they were just expressing their thing. You don't break the law to express your opinion. They should have known better. They should have had something called a brain to know that they were probably being set up. But many of them, again, wanted to play the fool. They were more interested in getting their picture on social media and being stars on social media than using their brain and realizing that everything they were doing was being recorded, and they would basically be handled the way that they've been handled. I don't like the way they've been handled. I don't like what's happening. I thought this today was a travesty of justice to give somebody 18 years for this. But again, there are those that did things they just shouldn't have done. To be frank with you, I don't think anybody should have ever touched the Capitol. If they wanted to protest outside, protest outside. But when you start busting glass and breaking the law, folks, what do you expect? What do you expect? And of course the law, the justice system, because it was Trump of all things, is going to be harsh like they're being harsh now. What do you expect? Corruption. That's corrupt. That's corruption. Folks, no empire has survived it. No empire has survived it. And again, the church is silent, and they're consenting to the corruption by its silence. And while I'm at it, since I've offended half of you tonight, I might as well offend the other half. Folks, before you start thinking what you think about 2020, I know what most of you believe, and I'm not saying that ain't true, but I will tell you this. Some of the issue of 2020 was not necessarily that totally. It was because you had some numbskull Christians that went out and voted for Joe Biden. Now, I know you don't want to hear that. Most of you believe the Q narrative that no Christian would have ever voted for. Oh, yeah, they would have. Oh, yeah, they would have. Because there are a lot of Christians that put their political agenda ahead of God's agenda. There's a lot of Christians that would go to their grave defending their politics instead of defending the Word of God. And as Bill Federer talked about tonight, consenting with their silence. When you do stuff like that, folks, you consent to the evil. Let me tell you something. You can raise all the hell you want to about the pedophilia, the abortion, the transgenderism, the corruption, the greed, the border, the economy, the gas. You can raise all the sand you want to. If you voted for that, guess what? You voted for exactly what you've gotten. And if you voted against it, well, God bless your heart. God bless your heart. But because some didn't vote against it, we've got the country we want. I've always said this, folks, and I believe this tonight. We ultimately, as people, we get the country we ultimately want. An unrighteous people that don't want God, that shakes God off the thing. And that's what Bill was talking about tonight, how the kingdoms of the past with these kings, the king could rule as he wanted to. And there were some kings of history that literally slaughtered Christians by the tens of thousands, and there was nothing said about it. There was a total silence by the church. Folks, do you realize that Hitler drew his power in Nazi Germany not from the German people? He drove his power. He gained his power from the church because he told the church, you take care of the religion, I'll take care of the politics. And the church never spoke up about the corruption of Hitler until 6 million Jews lay dead in the street and 55 million lay dead across Europe because of one man. Because of one man. That was on the church. There were some voices that did speak up, and they were eradicated and isolated and marginalized immediately, and most of them died. Dietrich Bonhoeffer died. Martin Niedermuller died. He went to a prison camp. He was let go, and then he died shortly after that. Corrie ten Boom hid Jews. Her sister died in the camp. It was all across Europe. But the European church zipped their mouth. The German church zipped their mouth. And they were silent in the face of evil. And if we are silent, folks, in the face of evil, we consent to it. And if we embrace it, we consent to it. You may not go out and kill a baby tonight. You may not go out and be a homosexual. You may not go out and be a transgender. You may not go out and be corrupt. You may be the most prim example of just wonderful Wonderful morality. And I salute you. Let me tell you something. If you're not speaking out against evil, you're consenting to it. You're consenting to it. And I will say it again tonight, folks. On this show, hell will freeze over before we stay silent in the face of evil. I've been given too much responsibility over the course of 6 years to stay silent. And I don't care if that counter gets down to 10. We're not going to stay silent. Number 5, and this is the final one, then I'm going to take your questions. It's already 1 o'clock. I've got my money's worth out of this midnight special tonight. Number 5 has to do with the church. By the way, no empire survives corruption. No empire of history has survived corruption in this government. And no justice, and that's what this corruption has brought on, has been a total absence of justice in the streets and in our courts. There is no equity. We will not survive that as a country. And open borders, that's illegality. That's what I'm talking about. It has to do with the justice, folks. There's no justice tonight. We're not even enforcing the laws we've got. Why do we scream for more laws? We can't even enforce. And then, I will say this about my governor today, Bill Lee. I was reading something on Facebook. I posted it. Bill Lee signed a bill today that had to define a woman, somebody. I don't know who it was, and I had to laugh at it. He said it's pretty pathetic that your governor had to define that, and I'll totally agree with that statement. It is pretty pathetic that a governor has to sign a bill that we have to know what a woman is and what's not a woman. I mean, seriously. Are you joking me? I mean, come on. No country, no state, folks, no people, no group ever survives something like that. They just don't. They just don't survive it. But the final one is really the linchpin, and this is where Bill really nailed it tonight. And I'm just sort of piggybacking off of what he said tonight. It was so encouraging, but it was chilling. And he's going to come on Monday night, and I'll let him give his version. He does a better job of telling you this than I am, because he's got history to prove it. He's got some historical things and some scriptures to prove it too. I didn't have time to fix the scriptures because I wanted to come on here before you went to bed out west. But the church, a corrupt church in any nation will produce a corrupt nation. A silent church in a corrupt nation will destroy a nation. A church that is carried away with false doctrine and false spiritual experiences and embracing New Age humanism. And in some cases, not even New Age humanism, they're just plain out embracing satanic worship in the guise of Christianity, but basically worshiping the devil and being carried away into false doctrine to the point that if Paul was here, he would probably tell this church of America the same thing he told Galatia. Who has bewitched you, you foolish Christians? What has bewitched you? Who has bewitched you? He would say the same thing to this body of Christ in America. And you know something? I say that with loose terms. It's not the body of Christ, folks. It's the apostate church. The true body ain't doing this. The true body of Christ is true to the Lord. They're true to the truth. They're true to sound doctrine. They're true to the things of God. And a true church is not silent in the face of evil. They're not silent in the face of evil. And whether they are killed or murdered or thrown into jail or whatever, they could care less at this point, because it's more important for them to inherit the kingdom that is to come than to worry about what's happening in this earth. This evil, adulterous generation of people that have forsaken God. Only the apostate church will sit in silence. And because we have an apostate system over America, folks, of the church, we have an apostate nation. No nation and no empire of the past has ever survived it. And I can assure you tonight, no empire of the future will either, including this one. Including this one. And if we don't come to our senses soon, and I don't see that happening right now, I just don't. I don't care what the Q prognosticators and the Q psychics are telling you. And these other people, folks, that Q movement is about as evil as can be, because it has promoted nothing but apathy, lethargy, It has sent people off the cliff believing stuff that a fifth grader would look at and shake his head at and roll his eyes back into his sockets and say, that's just a bunch of nonsense. You say, how do you know that? Well, I've ran it by a few fifth graders, and they've said to me it's nothing but nonsense. It's a shame that a fifth grader has to tell us that. And people with doctorate degrees and other people that's supposed to be so smart can't see it. All right. Now, that's my diatribe that's a pretty good diatribe for 47 minutes. Now, I'm going to change. I got about 13 minutes. That's all I got. Let me talk about DeSantis. 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 How many people out here believed that what DeSantis is doing, getting into the race, is a good idea? How many believe, like I do, that it's not going to be good? Bama says he's Ron the Con. I wouldn't go that far, Bama. Diane says no. We got 3 no's. Bama, I'm going to take issue with you a little bit. I don't believe Ron DeSantis is a con man. I don't believe he's a bad guy, but I don't think it's time for him to run for president. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Bad idea. Thumbs down. Everybody's got a no so far. DeSantis should stay home, Ron. I'll agree with you. I'll agree with you. All right, my next question is this. And what do you see? What do you see happening to the party with him getting in? Is this going to hurt the party? I was talking to people in Nashville tonight, and people were mixed. There were some that believe that him and Trump can make up, kiss and make up, and that Trump may put him on the ticket for 2024. I don't believe that. I don't see that happening. I don't think he's ready for this. It's going to split the vote, Diane, in the primary, but my question to y'all is this. Do they recover for the general election in 2024? Becky, he's trying to fix Florida right now. Look, I'm going to say this about Ron DeSantis. He's done a good job in Florida. I've not talked to anybody in Florida that is complaining about the job he's doing. He's trying. But he don't need to get 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. That's not his calling. It's not his calling. But anyway. Brian says he thinks Trump's draw is too strong. DeSantis will only hurt himself. Brian, I agree with that. But let me say this about Trump, folks. Trump's not perfect. Trump's not perfect. It may not be time for DeSantis, but Trump would be wise to put a guard around this little thing right here and stop saying that a 6-week ban on abortion is too harsh. Because things like that get me shaking my head, and it gets me troubled inside about Trump. He's either pro-life or he ain't, folks. He's either pro-life or he ain't. And he needs to stop listening to these moronic spiritual advisors that's putting this crap in his head. Because that's what it is. Now, second question. Another question. If it's not Ron's time in 2024, do you support him in 2028? Would you support Ron DeSantis in 2028? What would you do then? I'm in agreement with all of you tonight that it's not his time. But what do you think about 2028? All right, we got sort of a split. Linda says yes. Bear says yes. Becky says yes. Bama says no. Liz says no. Crystal says yes. So we got about a 6-1. Patty says yes. Cynthia says has to see the fruit first. Well, Cynthia, what fruit are you looking for? Jenny says not strong enough. Kathy says yes. Kathy J says don't know yet. Anna says maybe. Bachman says no. Curtis, no. Good to see you tonight, buddy. Julia says, no, I will not vote for her. Okay. All right, now, Facebook split down the middle. Okay, good deal. And that's fine. That's what I wanted. I wanted to get an idea of your ideas and thoughts, because I don't think there's any bad answers in that. I don't think it's a right or wrong answer, because God only knows where we'll be in 2028. I'm just curious. I was just curious to see this tonight. That's why I came on. I wanted to see how people... My goodness, there must be 130 people that's going to be very bored on a Friday morning at 12:59 in the morning to be watching this old dude. Becky Youngkin, I don't think he's got the gusto for vice president. I don't like that choice. I like him. I don't think Trump's looking at him. I don't think Trump's even giving him a second thought right now. I think he's looking at females, and I think that I've been hearing all sorts of names, but no, I don't think that's going to be, no. So we got about 160. Liz, I wouldn't trust Flynn. There's no far I can throw it. No offense. No offense. I wouldn't trust Flynn past his microphone. So I hope not. I hope not. And I got my reasons for saying that, which I don't want to get into tonight this late hour. All right. Looks like we got a pretty split audience then. So basically, there's some of you that says yes to 2028 with DeSantis and no to him now. There's some of you that says no and no. And Liz, you're saying he's owned. Who's he owned by? I'm curious. Who do you think he's owned by? Folks, there are connections with Trump, whether you believe this or not. Trump's got associations and Trump's got affiliations, and his children have got affiliations to people that ain't too savory right now. And somebody put that crap in his head about that abortion. And when I heard that, I was just like, did I hear that right? I went back and read that again, and I said, did he say that? I thought it was fake news. Somebody put that crap in his head, and I got a suspicion I know who it is, and I don't want to say it tonight because I'm trying to keep what audience I've got left. I will say this. Somebody on Twitter, did I download that picture? I did not download that picture. Oh, I did too. Hang on just a second. I downloaded that picture. I did download this one. Hang on just a second. It looks safe. Of course it does. I do want to show you this picture. And I will agree with you, Liz, to a degree. I'm not saying I disagree with you. Somebody on Twitter posted this tonight. I love this. I will say this. I agree with this sentiment. I agree with this sentiment. When the swamp is behind you, you don't want that candidate. And that's a pretty accurate statement. That's a pretty accurate depiction of those that support Ron DeSantis, because he was part of that group right there. So when they're clamoring for him, it's probably best that you stay away from him. Now, I'm going to make it clear tonight, folks, before somebody leaves this show and swears up and down McDonald's going crazy. Listen, I'm not voting for Ron DeSantis. DeSantis is not my candidate. I thought this was a bad idea. I thought it was a bad idea before he even announced it today. I saw it coming. I had hoped that somebody would get in his head and keep him from destroying himself, but I guess not. He's going to get clobbered by Trump. Trump's going to win probably 60 to 65% of the Republican vote in these primaries. Ron DeSantis will not win a state. He just won't. Possibly Iowa, but he's not going to win the primary. And I think I'll agree with the sentiment in the chat room tonight. What he's doing is destroying himself. But I want to caution you about hanging on every word that Trump says, folks, because I'm going to tell you something. Trump's saying some things himself that ain't too great. And he needs to get his act together, because, look, life to me is important. And you say, well, is that the only issue you vote for? Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. He's either pro-life or he ain't, folks. I don't want to vote for a candidate that's got a wishy-washy, well, I don't know if 6 weeks is too harsh or not. No, you should know that killing a baby, plain and simple, is murder. And if you're not going to be courageous enough to stand up for the woman's right, or no, let me change that. If you're not going to stand up for the baby's right to live, under any circumstance, you're not pro-life. I'm sorry. That's another thing the church has kept its freaking mouth shut about. And we've got people so confused. Well, I'm not sure, McDonald, if that's just being too hard. Let me tell you something tonight, folks. Every murderous baby, every time a baby's murdered, it's never too harsh. There shouldn't be any exception whatsoever for it. I don't want a candidate that's wishy-washy. And I know some of you are saying, well, what do you do? I don't know. You pray. You pray. Thank God the election ain't tomorrow. We got a year and another 6 months of this crap we're dealing with tonight. You better pray for your country we even make it to 2024. But anyway, I'll amen myself tonight. I'll amen myself. I'll amen myself. Lena says he's being used as a pawn for the billionaire establishment. They are donating $200 million. Well, Lena, maybe so. By the way, everybody, let's see here. All right, we're going to take a straw poll. Take a straw poll. Trump or DeSantis? Let's see what kind of yes, Ron, thank you about talking about the Who tonight. I'm glad you mentioned that, buddy. We got to get Ron back on the show, and hopefully I can be back on his show soon. I always enjoy being with him, but it's good to see you tonight. I'm so grateful you're up with me. But we do need to pray about Congress, folks. They've got a vote coming up about the Who, giving us our sovereignty away, and we need to pray against that. Trump. I'll agree with that on this late hour. I'm with you. Paul says Trump and no one else. Okay? I'm with you there. All right. Now, are we in agreement, though? I want to ask you a question. This is going to be a little harder question, and I may get a split. Is there anybody out there that agrees that a 6-week ban on abortion is too harsh? Is there anybody out there that agrees that a 6-week abortion ban is too harsh? I'm just curious. Asking for a friend. Brian says no. By the way, we got that story in our Telegram room at the McFiles.org. Linda says no. All right. Ron, I'm with you, buddy, with capital letters. With capital letters. Trump said it was. And that's the troubling thing. That's the troubling thing. That's the troubling thing to me, is who is giving him this advice. And folks, let me just say this. Let me say this about Trump. The only issue I've always had with President Trump, I've not had many. I've agreed with pretty much, in principle, everything that the man has done. I know some people get all bent out of shape about his tweets and about his demeanor. He's a New Yorker, folks. He's a businessman. He's stared down business deals all over this planet. And he is the New Yorker he is. And that's what you get when you get Trump. And it never bothered me as a Southerner, because we just as sarcastic as he is, we just do it with a better accent than he does. He does it with a Yankee accent. We just insult you with a Southern accent and a wink and a smile and a glass of tea. I am concerned about people around him just as much as some of you are concerned about the people around DeSantis, folks. And that, too, you need to pray about. You need to pray about that. Somebody put that in his head, because I stood in the cold in January of 2020 at the pro-life event, and he was the only president that had ever stood at that pro-life event. I never heard him say anything but life begins at conception, and any effort to kill a baby from that point on is murder. He stood up for the babies then. That's been now 3 years ago. So I don't know if something's changed, or again, if some buffoon has gotten in his head. But being that he's affiliated with certain revival movements, and his children are, it don't surprise me. And I'll just leave that alone for right now. I don't want to get into the weeds too deep with that tonight. But you better pray for these affiliations and these people that are talking to him. I'm just saying. What did Ron say? He says we need to pray that Trump shakes himself loose from these crummy advisors. Ron, you got it, buddy. You got it. You got it. You got it. That's exactly right. I should have just had Ron come and get on board tonight. David, we can pray all we want to. I think we should pray for that, but he's not going to remove him because he's neck deep in them. I mean, that's the problem. He's neck deep with these people. He's neck deep in them. I will, buddy. Next Friday, should be able to. I know the next Friday would be better, Ron, but I'll talk to you this week about that. I'm going to get you back on week after. I'll be on vacation that week. I think, actually, I'll tell you what, that's the 2nd. Actually, that will work. That will work. My bad. June the 2nd. Yes. All right, we're going to make that announcement. June 2nd. I'll be on the Ron Edwards Notebook. Ron Edwards Notebook. Ron, that will work, actually. June the 2nd. Thank you, buddy. Faith Wise says, demons are speaking to him. Yep, that's about right. But Faith, let me tell you something. They're religious demons. They're religious demons. That's what makes it worse. Because you say that, people think you are whatever. But anyway. And I think it's a sentiment in the chat room and in Facebook that we need to make sure that Trump has good people around him, and I'll agree with that. Benjamin McDonald. Benjamin, are we related? We got a Benjamin McDonald over there in the Facebook. Leah says, we insult you with a bless your heart. Yep, we do. We do. We do. Good to see Miss Connie Sutton in the house tonight. Hadn't seen her in a while. Good to see you, dear. We got a decent crowd for this late night. Good grief. Let me just say hello to our Facebook audience. Lena, Benjamin, Barbara, Carolinda, Patricia, Diabella. Good to see you tonight, Mary Jo. Barbara, Cheryl White, Dee Mancini. Good to see you. Of course, Connie. Good to see you, dear. Liz Goldman. Where are you from, Ben? Mary Jo Ritchie, good to see you tonight. And let's see here. K-Star Radio, June the 2nd. Ron, I'll see you then, buddy. I thought it was another. That's right. I'll be here. I'll be here that Friday. I'll be here. Absolutely. It's the next week I won't be, but glad. Next Friday's perfect, man. Next Friday's perfect. Anyway, all righty. Liz, maybe he's not the same Trump, and maybe there's been too many personal attacks and criminal accusations disrupted the office experience. I don't lay it all on that. I'll lay it on his advisors. Davey says, can we get into agreement that all the prayer teams that the Lord will on Trump's heart and break witchcraft? Of course, Davey, we've been doing that. We're already doing that. I think the true church is doing that. I think the true church is already doing that. But, David, let me tell you this. Trump's got to want that too. Trump's got to want that too. And he's still listening to the same people. He is truly still listening to the same people. All right. We got about, it's 1:15. I've been keeping you guys. I didn't expect to go this long. I'm going an hour and 5 minutes. It's 1 o'clock in the morning. I got to get up and do a Bible study in the morning. Edwards, you should have been with me tonight, man. I'd have got you one of these speakers. They told me that you could have went on the stage and spoke. The guy told me, he said, you can actually get on the stage and start speaking, McDonald. That close. I didn't want to steal Bill Federer's thunder, though. And I didn't want the people at Turning Point to call security and say, who is this clown? But I could have. They gave me a speaker's badge tonight. That's what you call, if you truly want to see what fake news looks like, this would have been it tonight. I wasn't a speaker, but it was a pleasure to see Bill Federer tonight in person. And, goodness. Oh. Hey, Ron, if you're out there, put the website for K-Star Radio. I think it's kstarradio.com, buddy. You know, Liz, I hear that crap about they've convinced him the women's vote. I don't care. I don't care what it is. He shouldn't be caving on abortion. I don't care. And again, they is the problem. They is the problem. Anyway. All right. I'm going to go 5 more minutes. Brian says he wants me to stay. I'm going to stay 5 more minutes. You got a question. You got a statement. I'm going to read them real quick. I'm going to say it right now. Quick. You got a question? Open, open, open. Davey Jenny says, Chris, I've been listening to you for 7 years. I just made you my pastor. Well, Jenny, thank you. Thank you. That's a long time. That's a long time. Got questions in the house? Benjamin says a remnant must stand. Yeah, we must. We are standing, Ben, to be honest with you. The remnant is. Benjamin, the remnant is standing. Connie says, God bless you, everyone. And Chris, thank you, Connie. Good to see you tonight, dear. It really is, truly. Any questions? Anything you got to say? Real quick, got 5 minutes, folks, and I'm getting out of here. It's 1 o'clock in the morning in the East. Even these West Coast folks about to go to bed. Anything. Brian says, never compromise your principles. Julia Carter says, will Trump ever learn his lesson? I hope. I hope. He ain't learning them right now. Any thoughts on who would be a good VP for Trump? Carol Linda, that's a great question. That's a great question. I've had a lot of people suggest Jim Jordan. I don't know if that's going to be the answer. Like, there's a lot of things. Sarah Huckabee's name's been thrown around. Kristi Noem's name's been thrown around. Carrie Lake's been thrown around. You know, I don't know. There's so many names out there. I will tell you this. It's a moot point right now because I think conditions on the ground next year, once he gets into the primaries and starts actually campaigning, they usually don't announce the vice president till the convention. And that's not going to be till next summer. So, anyway. It is bad to ask that question, Brian. We don't take questions about that. And please don't get yourself blocked. I love you, Brian. But we don't answer questions about public guests publicly. Ben Carson, Becky, I know people have said Ben. I'm mixed on Ben. I think he's a good man, but I'm not sure he's vice president material. Tucker Carlson, Shelley H. I wouldn't mind that one. I wouldn't mind that one. Do you think Florida will go blue if DeSantis leaves, Liz? It's a possibility. It's a possibility. It's a possibility. And that's why he needs to stay. He needs to stay. He needs to stay and keep Florida red. I totally agree with that. You know, Kathy, I don't have the bear hat tonight, but I do have this one. I should have brought the bear hat with me, but I didn't have time. I just got in from Nashville and got right on air. But I do have this hat. So when they start telling you that Chris said something last night, you would have heard what McDonald said. Just remember this, that I was never here. Becky, if I ran for president, you all would disown me. You would all disown me. You would all disown me. Because that first press conference, it would be the epic of epic press conference. I would hire Ron Edwards as my press guy. And Cedric says, Tucker McDonald, vice president. That's my vote right there. I'm going to talk to my nephew. I'm going to see him perhaps this weekend First of the week. Him and Cassidy are up here in the North Carolina hills. You know, Cedric, I'm going to run that by him. I'm going to run that by him. Anyway, Becky says I'd vote for you. Well, I tell you what, Beck, if things get too bad next year, just write my name in. I'd like to see the media report on that one. Did y'all enjoy this? Cleo says she'll be the ambassador to Australia. It will save you the travel costs. Done. Cleo, done. Cleo, ambassador to Australia. That is done. Good deal. Don't think John Kennedy. Forget that. We ain't no Kennedys. No. No Kennedys. All right, guys. Hope you enjoyed this tonight. I had a great time with you. It's late. I should have been sleepy, but I was so wired up from the trip. Federer got me fired up tonight. I hope we got you fired up on this late night. We'll be back. I like these little chit-chat sessions late night. Just let it all hang out. It's liberating to let this stuff off your chest. I hope I lit some fires. Folks, need to pray for our nation. Pray for President Trump. And yes, pray for Ron DeSantis. Pray for Florida. Pray for the country, folks. And I want to make it clear tonight, just in case somebody goes out there and runs their mouth, like a lot of people do, and wrongly runs their mouth. McDonald ain't voting for DeSantis. McDonald's on the Trump train. And until President Trump shows me otherwise, I'm going to vote for him. But I will tell you this, folks. Just because I'm voting for him does not mean that I agree with everything he says. I love him, but I don't agree with him on this abortion thing. And he better come to his senses, because I'm going to tell you something. That's going to hurt him. And if he wants God's blessing, he better make a choice whether he wants to listen to this dumb, blank spiritual advisory board or he wants to listen to God. Because this dumb, blank spiritual advisory board ain't listening to God. If they're telling him that kind of stuff, they're not listening. And I'm going to tell you something. Our silence is consent. When we're silent, we consent to evil. Take that away from this program tonight. And Gilligan McDonald salutes you on this late night. I will see you in the morning on the Faith Network with a Bible study. I'm going to probably need one after this show tonight. God bless you out there. Have a good night, everybody. Put some fire in that house for me if you enjoyed it. See you later. Curtis A. Strobe, good to see you in the house, buddy. It was great seeing you in Kansas City. Have a good night, everybody. Again, buddy, so good seeing you tonight in the house, buddy. Bless you, man. See you next Friday. Give Ron a hand out there, guys. Give him some love out there. Bless you, buddy. Bless you and Denise. See you soon.